Alright people, what's going on? Space Cowboy here. Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be doing the schedule look through and predictions. Before we get into it, please make sure to leave a like on the video. It helps the channel out a lot. Also, make sure to subscribe if you enjoy this type of content and more to come, because 90% of you guys that are watching my stuff are not subscribed to the channel. So if you enjoy it, make sure to do that and hit the notification bell to be notified when I go live or post new content. Alright, so what are we going to do? So we're going to talk about the initial schedule. We're going to get into games and how I think they're going to go, just based off of the look of it and stuff like that. Now, I'm going to try and do a live stream where I'm going to try and do the entire NFC East. I don't know when that's going to be. It's probably going to be this week, but I'll put that out in a community post. So, let's get into it, shall we? So, initial thoughts on the schedule. So, I wanted to kind of take some time to look at the schedule. I just didn't want to hit the ground running, because that's not what I do. I usually like to think over the schedule at this point, see where I think the Cowboys will go, where I think the Cowboys, are. So, based off of some research, the Cowboys have the third easiest schedule in the 2020-2021 season out of, all the other teams, which is really good. I think that, if I remember correctly, the Cowboys, when they did really well, in the 2010s, that being 2014 and 2016, they had relatively weak schedules. Now, I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. I think in 2016, we had, the easiest schedule, or the second easiest schedule, I forget. But that's good to have, especially with the new head coach, some new roster turnarounds, stuff like that, new scheme and everything. Really good to have, especially with what we're looking at. Now, with that being said, this isn't going to be a walk in the park. Yes, it's going to be kind of hard because we don't know what to expect from this team. When you have a new head coach, you have a new philosophy coming in, things could change, better or worse, So we'll see what happens on that front, because really this season's going to be kind of we'll see where we go from here. That's pretty much every season. You kind of take it year by year, game by game, day by day, etc. Now, with all that, lollygagging, let's go ahead and get into the schedule. I want to talk about each of the opponents and what I'm thinking it's going to happen. I'll give you, once I do my official prediction, I will give you the highest amount of wins I think the Cowboys can attain and the lowest amount of wins that they can attain. Basically, the window that I think they're in. So, let's go ahead and get into it. So, Cowboys at Rams. So the Rams opening up their new stadium in Inglewood, SoFi Stadium. It's a really, really nice stadium. Probably top of the line stadium, considering, I would argue that AT&T was, but this is probably going to be the next era of stadiums. But I still like AT&T Stadium better. But all joking aside, though, Cowboys going to face the Rams. This is a Sunday night football game. Now, I do think the Cowboys at this juncture are a better all-around football team than the Rams. I think that the Cowboys have more weapons on offense than the Rams, because the Rams, you look at the team, they have, the Cowboys have the better quarterback, better running back, better receiving core, better offensive line. Probably the defense is the only better part, so I'm going with the Cowboys in this game. I just think the Rams are in a rebuild stage. Look, yeah, you have really good pieces, but, on defense, but with Todd Gurley leaving and that offense, it's just, I don't know. That team's in full rebuild mode, and I think the Cowboys getting the Rams to open up the season, Sunday Night Football, I think that's where you set the tone. I think the Cowboys go to 1-0 here. You go to week 2, Falcons at Cowboys. Now, I will say this is a game where I'm circling and saying to myself, this could be an interesting one. You gotta understand, yes, the Falcons have not been good in recent years. They've gone 7-9. They've gone 7-9 back-to-back years. They started out 1-7 back-to-back years, and Dan Quinn, he is on the hot seat. Can he get the Falcons back to the playoffs and on another deep playoff run? Ever since that Super Bowl, they just haven't been the same. Now, the last time we played them was 2018. We beat them on a last-second field goal. And then the other two times that we have played them, they've beaten us. That being in 2017 and 2015. Now, I think that this is going to be a test for the Cowboys' defense because the Falcons have a pretty good offense. They have Todd Gurley now. Got Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. They got a ton of weapons, and Matt Ryan is no slouch. But I do think the Cowboys will get the win here. They're at home. I wouldn't be shocked if they lost this game, but to give it the benefit of the doubt, I think the Cowboys start off 2-0, but would not be shocked if they open up their home opener with a loss. Cowboys at Seahawks now. This is going to be interesting because we all know the atmosphere playing in Seattle. It's tough and stuff like that. And I think this is where this is where the Cowboys will struggle here. Now, this is a key point because what makes this game interesting is that if the incident continues, and you know what I'm talking about, there won't be as many fans in the stadium to create the disruptive crowd noise. Not saying it's not going to be loud or it's going to be easier, but I will say that I think the Cowboys could get a break here, and I think they can win here. Do I think they will win ultimately? I don't think so. If you know Mike McCarthy and his experience with dealing with Seattle, he tends to have not a whole lot of luck with them. And you can argue, you could say the same thing about the Falcons. But more importantly, the Cowboys have not really done well against Seattle in recent years, other than winning in a playoff game of recent and a 2014 game. Otherwise, Seattle has won every other matchup. I think it really depends on what kind of Seattle you get, because I think Seattle's going to be really good this year. I think they're like in the 11-5, 12-4 category. I mean, they nearly won the NFC West last year. But I think this is where Dallas gets their first loss. Now, Dallas then goes home against the Browns. And I think this really depends on what type of Cleveland Browns you're getting. If the Browns continue to brown, this will be an easy win for the Cowboys, without a doubt. But if the Browns can put their talent together, this will be a tough game. And I'm not saying this to be contradictory or anything. No, like the Browns have the talent to be a disruptive team, but I think the Cowboys get the win here. Go to 3-1 in the first quarter. Moving to the next quarter of games, the Cowboys will be facing the Giants at home. They have 3 straight home games, and I think that they get the win against the Giants. Now, I do think. Here's the thing, I do believe that the Giants can get the Cowboys. Now, until they do, I'm not expecting them to do anything crazy. I think that the Giants are still rebuilding. However, I still think they are a much better team than last year. They added more protection to the offensive line like I suggested they do. They need a bit more weapons for Daniel Jones, and I think they need to continue building up that defense. They added Xavier McKinney, but I do believe that the Giants will be a much better team in 2020 than the past couple of years. Monday Night Football, Cardinals at Cowboys. I think that this is where it's weird, because the Cardinals, a lot of people are writing off the Cardinals as they're whatever. But here's the thing: they added a ton of they added Isaiah Simmons, they added DeAndre Hopkins. Their team's going to be pretty good, right? And I do think that the Cardinals can contend for a playoff spot if everything goes right. And typically, there's a game where you should expect the Cowboys to win. And you gotta understand, the Cowboys have not, I would say, under Dak Prescott, they've only faced the Cardinals once, if I remember, and that was in 2017 where we beat him in the desert. Granted, that was a on the decline type of team, but with this team, it's a hell of a lot different. With that being said, I'm going to say the Cowboys lose on Monday Night Football. I think that the Cardinals will get the Cowboys just because knowing how Dallas, and keep in mind, like I'm trying to think how Mike McCarthy is against certain teams, and keep in mind, Mike McCarthy, I'm trying to remember, there's been a couple games I've watched, and again, I'm just going off of the instincts of how the NFL season typically goes, so don't kill me. Don't kill me with the dislikes bombs or whatever. I'm just giving you my analysis. I think that the Cardinals will give the Cowboys fits on Monday Night Football, and I think it's a close loss there. Cowboys at Redskins, I'm going to give this a win same premise as the Giants. Yes, they're going to be better, but until they get a bit further, I think that we can sweat. We don't have to worry about it. Then you have the Cowboys at Philadelphia. This is, I believe, another Sunday Night Football game. And I do believe we will split with Philadelphia. And I think we'll take the L here just because it's in Philadelphia. And yes, I understand that the Cowboys tend to play better in Philadelphia than they do at home for some reason. But no, I think that the Eagles get the Cowboys here. But I will say this, and I could say this for certain. If the Cowboys beat the Eagles in Philadelphia, I do believe that the Eagles will be swept by the Cowboys. I can say that with, sincere certainty, whatever you want to put it that way. I do believe that if the Cowboys win this matchup, they will sweep the Eagles. And I think that, I think that they'll win the East. It really, depending on how the Eagles do this season. And again, I'm going to do a video talking about the NFC East and just doing schedule predictions for them as well. But yeah, Steelers at Cowboys, this is going to be another tough game. This really comes down to if Ben Roethlisberger is playing and how that offense looks, because we didn't see a lot of it. But I do know that Steelers defense is tough. Really tough. But I do think that the Cowboys will get a win against the Steelers at home. I think it really comes down to the situation. And I think that if this game had been in Pittsburgh, I would have taken the Steelers to win this game just because they're getting back to their old ways of playing tough defense. And this is another game I wouldn't be shocked if the Cowboys lost. But I do think the Cowboys will beat the Steelers at home. The last time the Steelers won in Dallas was 2004, I believe. So there's that. Then we hit our bye week at 6-3. That is not bad whatsoever. That's pretty good, considering the fact that, hey, that's good for a new coach. Cowboys at Vikings out of the bye week. I think that this comes down to how the Cowboys, because traditionally, in my experience of watching the Cowboys, they typically come out flat after a bye week, with some instances where that's not the case. And again, this comes down to game preparation with Mike McCarthy and how he does his thing. And keep in mind, Minnesota, they traded away Stephon Diggs. They lost a bunch of pieces, and I think that Mike Zimmer is going to be on the hot seat as well, mainly due to the fact that the Vikings, they just haven't been able to do a whole lot with Kirk Cousins. Yes, they won a playoff game, but they really should be doing more. And then I'm trying to think, is there anything else that comes to mind with the Vikings? I just think that the Vikings are going to be a boom or bust team. I think the Vikings will be a solid team this year. However, when it comes to how well they'll do, I think it's under that realm of possibility of But I do think that the Vikings get the Cowboys at home, but I think the Cowboys keep it close. Next, Redskins at Cowboys. I think the Cowboys take out the Redskins. I think they sweep them again on Thanksgiving. They come back home. They got a short week. I think they get it done. Now, Cowboys at Ravens. I do think that the Ravens will not go 14-2, but they'll be a tough team. Now, I really do think that this game will be a litmus test for the Cowboys at this point. They'd be 7-4 going into this game, and I think this is kind of this is kind of like that. If you want to be in the playoffs, you should win this game. Now, the Ravens had a really good draft, and if Lamar Jackson can replicate what he's doing, I think he'll be really, I think he'll be good for years to come, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. I think the Ravens get the Cowboys here, and the Cowboys fall to 7-5. Now, understand, before I go any further, we're talking about a first-year head coach, okay? And it's very rare for first-year head coaches to do very good in their first season. And I'm not trying to listen, I want the Cowboys to do well. I shouldn't have to explain myself, nor do I care, but but I do think that the Cowboys are going to have it tough, especially with the NFC being really tough this year. But Cowboys to Bengals, I think the Cowboys get the win here. Bengals are rebuilding. I don't think they're going to be good this year. They need a ton more pieces. Cowboys at 49ers at Cowboys. I believe this is a Sunday night football game or a primetime game. I got to look back at the schedule. But yes, this is a Sunday night football game. Thank goodness I could clarify. This is the stretch where I think the Cowboys go on to win the East. And I think I do believe they will beat the 49ers at home, because I think the 49ers are going to come. Now, then, I think the 49ers will do well. I think they're going to be in the realm of like 12-4 to 9-7. But I do think that the Cowboys go on a run where they're going up against a really quality team in the 49ers, and I think they get the win here. The NFL works in weird ways, so I don't want to hear, oh, you're contradicting yourself. Well, I'm being honest. And then they play the Eagles at home. I think they win this game. This is probably going to be for the division. I do think that I think the Cowboys will come in and the Eagles will come in with similar records, or one will have a better record than the other, and the winner it's going to be like how in 2019, 2018, 2014, it's going to be one of those games where they come in with a similar record, and I think the Cowboys get them here. And then I think that this really depends on if the Cowboys. Now, I do think the Cowboys. Okay, and this is important here. I do think the Cowboys finish out 11-5, and I think this is mainly due to the fact that since the 1 seed is the only way you're getting a bye week this year, I do firmly believe that the Cowboys will take this winning streak into the playoffs and do some damage. I think that they're due for another playoff run, and I think this might be the year. And I mean, going 11-5 as a first-year head coach is not bad, and it's certainly we'll see what happens here. Now, what is my ceiling for this team, and what is my floor? Now, when I mean ceiling, this is if the Cowboys play very well, and I don't have any issues, like if McCarthy is as good as advertised, how do I think he's going to do? Well, let's go ahead and I'm going to show you picks where I think if they do well, I think they'll be fine. I think they beat the Cardinals, and I think they would beat the Vikings. That puts them at 13-3. I think you switch those two games, and I think they get to 13-3. I could see, and it's tough because it's like, I don't, I could see them honestly going 15-1 at best case scenario with firing on all cylinders, but it's tough, and I would rather not go 15-1 because of the whole. There's a bad aura around teams that have gone 15-1. But let me go worst case scenario. Let's say the Cowboys are not as good as we think they are. I think they would lose the Falcons game. Let's put these switch these back. I think they would lose the 49ers game. And I would get a 9-7. I think they would do well every other point of the year. And I think that's my lowest point. I would maybe, and that's pretty decent, and it shows you that it takes a couple of games to merely, switch where you're positioned. And I think the Cowboys will make the playoffs this year. I think that when you add a 7th team, or hell, if they even add an 8th team at some point down the line, I do think that the Cowboys will make the playoffs this year. And I think because they added a 7th team, I do think that the Cowboys have a bigger window of opportunity to make the playoffs. And keep in mind, Mike McCarthy, once he gets to the postseason, he's a really good coach. Granted, over the past couple years with Green Bay, ever since after that Super Bowl run, they haven't been as good. But they have, on average, if I remember correctly, Mike McCarthy generally wins his first game in the playoffs. He generally does, if memory serves me right. He's only lost, I think, 2 or 3 games in their, the first game they played in the playoffs. So let me go ahead and switch back my picks to get back to that 11-5 record. So my range is 9-7 to 13-3. I showed you the games where I think the Cowboys can win and lose. And keep in mind, I do think that the Cowboys can do better than I think they can. And with that being said, I don't have an issue with that. I'm not expecting a hell of a lot with this team. I'm expecting this to be the building blocks to better seasons. However, I want to hear what you guys have to say. Go down to the comment section below and tell me, where do you think the Cowboys would do? Do your prediction, your best case scenario, worst case scenario, and what you expect from the Cowboys this season. Do you have high expectations, low expectations? I'm taking it game by game. I'm just giving you my honest opinion where I, think the Cowboys are at right now. I think the Cowboys are a playoff contender, and I think that this is the year where you see where things go, and then the next year you build on that and you take that into the and then you go on a championship run over the next 1 to 2 years after this season. But I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. Once again, make sure to like, subscribe to the page, and hit the notification bell to get more stuff from me. With that being said, guys, I will be seeing you guys later. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
I used to live in Sin Cities like Bruce Willis, but I'm Jackie Chan, karate chopping, I'm still kicking. I used to be chopped and screwed, I'm little flipping. Now I'm nice, Mike Jordan, so who's pimping? I'm running man, you the running man, you still slipping. I hit records, you swinging, it's still